crazy!
Welcome back, everyone. This is Overwatchers, the podcast all about, well, you know, Overwatch. I'm Garrett Weinzierl. He's Patrick Beja, and if you're watching video, he's not showing his video, so he has put his image in my hands, and those are terrible hands to have your image in. Go watch the video version if you missed
that'll teach me to not come prepared for the show. I was like, I could have video, but I'm kind of it's a hassle with my setup now. And Garrett was like, no worries, no problem. You're French. There's a French character in the Overwatch roster. Let's put your face on her body. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. I look lovely.
I never thought you could pull off such a deep V, Patrick, but you're really owning it.
You know, the mistletoe player intro, if that was you being Widowmaker, just wouldn't quite be the same for me.
And that lovely voice.
Chris. It's ChanmanV. We didn't introduce
him. That's right.
How's it going?
Good, man.
So is everyone merry? Is everyone getting lots of holiday, not Christmas, but holiday loot boxes?
No.
Oh, yeah. I ended up succumbing and buying like 24 of them just because I was having not very good luck with just all the loot boxes I had. But I still have not gotten Zen, which is like, it's just like,
do you have enough money to buy if you don't?
Yeah, I've got like 40. I need 40 more gold. So Zen's not an issue, but I'd like Pharah too, and I don't have Pharah, so I think I'm going to be missing out on some skins unless I buy more, which I don't know. I might have to do just for.
I've only opened the boxes that I've earned through the game, and I haven't gotten a single Christmas skin.
Oh, really?
But
have you gotten regular skins and stuff? That's it's frustrating.
Yeah, like I got Pirate Torbjorn, which is a skin I like.
That's okay.
But it's all right. But I was kind of hoping for Santa. But it's Christmas. It's not Halloween. I'm not paying money for this. Halloween's my holiday.
I got Rudolph Roadhog.
Nice.
I believe I got Zen. I'm not 100% sure, but I got like 3. I got Tracer for sure. I got May, I believe. I got like 3 or 4. So I'm really lucky in Overwatch loot boxes, or also I'm playing a lot. But I don't know. I hope it doesn't mean it's evening out for something else in life where I'm unlucky for. Although, as we'll get to in later in the show, it might be unlucky in another area of the game, which is competitive, but we'll get to that.
Oh, Patrick. Apparently all of the positive talk and reinforcement and go get 'em attitudes from Chris and I, more from Chris, less from I, is just not enough. It's not enough.
Yeah, I did go and get him. It's just they didn't want to get got. It's not, I tried, but we'll talk about it later. But yeah, right. the saga continues, and apparently, as we were discussing on Twitter, the how did we call it? The segment of Patrick's struggle, psychological struggle through eSports, resonated with a lot of people, and we got a lot of reactions. So we absolutely won't make it as long as we did last episode, but we'll check in, and things have been happening or not happening.
Well, Patrick, before we get going, we always have to thank our sponsor at the top of the show, and I really appreciate all the stuff that just left your mouth, because now you've just sunk into my head the thought that you need to go right now and register getgot.game.
God game, that's so good.
Getgot.game.
Oh, that's so good.
So as our past 2 episodes have been, this episode is also sponsored by .game. As always, folks, .game domains are available wherever domain names are sold, or you can go to get.game right now and register your .game domain. It's still 2016, so we can still say that this domain was launched this year. This year, guys. It's still a new domain.
So
a lot of great names are still available. So go to get.game right now, and maybe as an end of the year present, register getgot.game and send it over to Patrick Beja.
Or got him.game.
Got him.game.
Got him. That's true.
Because you got Patrick.game. There we go. That would be adorable.
Aww.
Just flipping adorable. But go check them out. Definitely go check out get.game. Get yourself a domain name. We thank them for their support. And not only, guys, is this the podcast where we talk about Overwatch, this is also the podcast where three straight males try to discuss a discussion around homosexuality and not make it seem weird or like we're tiptoeing around the subject. But
I don't think we need to tiptoe around it. I think the most surprising. So for those who haven't seen it, I'm sure everyone knows by now, but just in case, there's a new holiday comic that is out, and there's a lot of stuff in it, and we're going to discuss a lot of it because there's lots of speculation and fun things happening. But the main item is the revelation that Tracer is gay. She was confirmed as identifying as a lesbian is the specific way they described it. And I think the biggest news about all of this is that it wasn't such a big deal, or at least I haven't really seen it. I'm sure, there were some people who were agitated about this, and certainly there were some messages in the forums from a few idiots saying, I want my game to be reimbursed or some idiocy like that. But overall, how much we've grown as a community in the past 2 years when this was actually a huge issue. I'm sure it might be in the future, but Overwatch has been such a beacon for diversity and respectful diversity. We talk about it here and there. But in this case, I think everyone was like, the most prevalent reaction was, well, yeah, she's gay. It didn't change your game. The game is still very cool and whatever. Excellent. Diversity. All right, let's go back to wondering about Reaper sulking in the dark corner. That was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, God, I just tried to load a comic and it just got loud. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say that. I agree. I definitely not as much hoopla, and I feel like some of the mainstream, or not mainstream, but at least the gaming outlets were anticipating it to be a big deal because Polygon just went and immediately, I guess in some ways spoiled the comic.
It wasn't just
right off
Polygon. Every freaking website I followed on crazy. Twitter, I was going to lead off with, normally I would lead off with spoiler alert, but this was spoiled for me within the first 2 minutes of the stupid comic coming out, and I hate all of you. All of you, I hate you.
And by the way, I can't remember who it was. It's sort of a shame, but someone tweeted at us and said, go read the comic before anyone spoils it for you. And I did. I immediately went to the comic. I knew it was on the Made Fire app, and I realized there was going to be something spoilery. And I immediately did because of that person who tweeted at us. So at least for me, you're my hero. Thank you so much for doing it. It did serve its purpose.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort. Sadly, I saw your tweet just about the same time I saw the Polygon tweet. So
that's what I mean. Yeah, so I feel like Polygon was thinking it would be, just a big deal. So it's actually, like you said, refreshing that it wasn't, wasn't that big a deal. I still think that there were little things in the comics that people missed because it was such a big topic that Tracer was gay.
Well, I think the Overwatch community.
It is a big deal. The fact that there is the main character for the game, the poster child for Overwatch is gay, considering what happened with Gamergate a couple of years ago, and basically, what everyone was saying during that crisis was a couple of things. First thing they were saying was it's about ethics in video game journalism, which I wrote a whole huge article about this I assure you it wasn't, or not the main part. And the second thing was a lot of people were worried that by forcefully introducing diversity like this in games with more women, more, gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever in games, it would change the nature of the games because it would attack the game designer's integrity, the design intent integrity. Of course it doesn't, but it's sort of a proof that it doesn't, because this game has been widely accepted. It has integrated diversity as a core element of the design, and it's not forceful, and the game is great anyway. So the fact that we're getting these kinds of characters, I think, is big news. I also think Polygon sort of forces the issue a little bit at times.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But
Go ahead, Garrett.
No, I was going to say I agree with you, Patrick. Like, I feel like the gaming press made it a bigger deal than I think like the Overwatch community really did, because all of us, I feel like for the most part, like if you were hanging out on the Overwatch subreddit, it was like, cool, let's move on and dig into all the Easter eggs that were within this comic.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
Yeah.
okay, she's gay.
I mean,
That's just kind of, it's normal nowadays. So that's why I was so annoyed at Polygon. I'm like, A, you spoiled the comic for me. B, this shouldn't be headlines anymore, because to me it's been normalized to a degree where it should no longer be headlines.
Well,
I don't think it
so
has yet, though. But
yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that Metzen already hinted at there being a gay character already.
They mentioned there's a few characters that are queer, I think is the way they put it.
Yeah, so it wasn't. I mean, it was a bit of surprise, just like a little surprise that it was Tracer, but I wasn't that surprised, that they were announcing a gay character. So they said several. He said several. I thought he just said one.
I think there's one or more. I think there's more than one. And actually, the interesting thing, if you want to push the inclusiveness issue a little bit further, just a little bit, is you actually see Tracer kissing her girlfriend. I think it would have been a much bigger deal if it had been a man who was gay. If it had been, whatever, Soldier kissing Reaper, or, something like that. First of all, it would have been weird.
Reinhardt and Soldier.
Yeah,
yes.
But it would have been a much bigger deal, I think. So there's still a little bit of... but anyway, it's really cool that it wasn't a big deal in the community. I think for video games, especially with Gamergate a couple of years ago only, it's normal that it's considered a big deal, but we're on the way to it not being a big deal as a whole for the industry, and that's a great thing. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I added the cosplay, the gay Tracer cosplay that somebody did. I think it was yesterday or the day before, but it's pretty good. And it's, as silly as it might sound, it's actually quite good with just her and her girlfriend.
Well, and
Check that out.
That was the other thing, is like the community kind of wasted no time. I saw fan art within, I think, 2 hours of this comic coming out, and like not bad fan art. It wasn't stick figures, like quality drawn art, which is such one of the things I love the most about the Overwatch community is the fervor with which the fans go and create their own things. But this was the one where I'm like, my God, the turnaround time. I've already been impressed with like fan art regarding some of the skins, because the turnaround time is very quick. But when I was seeing multiple art pieces show up in my Twitter feed within 2 hours of the comic being spoiled for me by Polygon.com, I found it rather impressive.
Yeah. So there were a bunch of other little hints and things in the comic. Do you want to go over them, or?
I had one final point that I wanted to bring up after me stating with, I don't think this is a big deal. Why are we making a big deal out of it? I was very happy that it was Tracer and not someone who were like, oh yeah, of course that person's a lesbian. Like, because there's plenty of like
Zarya.
Right, like your big like buff macho ladies. And like it would have been I feel so easy for them to go that route, and instead they went with, like you said, Patrick, the mascot for the game.
Yeah.
So
no, I absolutely agree. Zarya would have been way too obvious. And I somehow like the idea of, her saying, I want to hug you like big fuzzy Siberian bear, to be, to be her looking with envy as some poor schmuck in the corner of the bar and the guy being scared.
Yeah, I mean, I like it more when it's less like it doesn't define them. Like they're still they're a character who happens to be gay. They're not gay
It's
isn't
not
just their
prototypical.
character. And
Yeah.
Last
No,
of Us
absolutely,
did this with
absolutely.
Bill, and I thought it was fantastic in Last of Us, and I think it's fantastic here in what they're doing with Tracer and Overwatch.
Bravo, Overwatch.
Yes.
Bravo.
Yes,
Yeah, well done. Well done.
definitely well done.
So yes, let's talk about the other tidbits that were in this comic, because there was this the comic equivalent of a montage where we're checking in on all of the other Overwatch characters in like what they're doing for the holidays to celebrate. And we got Genji apparently hanging out with Zenyatta, penning a letter, which apparently makes it to Mercy.
Yep. Because they're
Yeah, so
apparently
that's
together, I guess.
No, well, not necessarily. That's where a lot of people went, because the letter, there's the same quill and everything. But it's also very possible that he's just writing to her because she's his, she saved his life, right? She got him when Hanzo left him for dead, and she fixed him and made him into, the cyborg he is now. So it's very possible they just have a very close relationship. The bond that formed there. It's also possible that she's with him, but I think we might never know. But,
It's also possible that it's Christmas, and that's when you send cards.
Yeah. And for some reason, Genji
it might be that
is
far.
like all sophisticated and writes with an actual feather. But
Well,
yeah.
and there were the feathers like when he disappeared in his cinematic, so we kind of associate feathers with
the
his clan.
sparrow. He has a sparrow
Yeah.
skin. So,
Yeah.
So the question is, where is Mercy? She looks like she's like in the middle of a war, like in some kind of tent.
Yeah,
Medic-
she's got like a military
medic tent.
jacket on, and you can see a nurse behind her, like preparing a bed. Yeah, I think
It
she's
feels very much World War II nurse station in a war camp somewhere on the front.
Yeah, she looks like she's out on the front somewhere. My favorite is the fact that apparently McCree has quite the drinking problem. And apparently Symmetra, who I'm just now noticing is in the background, can hold her booze.
Yeah. So, is it Symmetra? Did you say Symmetra or Sombra?
It looks
Sombra.
Or Sombra. Or, sorry, yeah, Sombra. I'm getting my S characters with cool haircuts mixed up. Yeah, that's Sombra in the background. My bad.
Yeah, and she's like, dude, you're passed out again. Really. But yeah, that's kind of cool. I like the speculation about Anna and Soldier spending Christmas together, and Soldier looking at a picture of, I'm not sure whom. It's not him with the kid, right? Is it? I don't know who it is in that
Some
picture.
female. It looks like a younger female.
Like the hair looks Tracer-esque.
Yes,
but
I don't think it. I think it's a kid of some description. But people were like, "Oh, but then it means Anna and Soldier might be together, maybe." I don't know. That one I don't really buy. I think they're just friends. And isn't it funny that all of these are focused on relationships? Like it's all of a sudden becomes like this reality TV show of like, oh, do you think that character is dating that character?
As long as they're not all going to end up sleeping with each other, and just some kind of round robin aspect. It's all good.
it's just going to become a big drama fest. Like you're all working at a restaurant together, which is 100% true, by the way, if you've ever worked in a restaurant.
It would make for some interesting dialogue, in the game. It would be like people going like, "Oh, I can't believe you cheated on me with that guy."
Yeah, but I loved the Reddit for this. Like them just going through. Like I didn't notice the little Canadian flag in the Farah scene on the TV. So they're like, "Oh my God, Farah's dad's Canadian. This is amazing."
Yeah, so some people thought it was a date and the man was her date, but apparently it isn't. It is her dad, and he's Canadian, which explains her skin, which is the Indian skin.
Yeah,
All of a
yeah.
sudden,
The Native American, if you prefer that terminology. Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. Which is such a cool skin, but at the time it seemed really kind of out of character. But yeah, now it kind of makes sense, and it makes me wonder, like in the order this went, were they like, yeah, she's got a Canadian dad, so let's get a sweet Native American skin in there, or was it, oh, this is cool skin, and then down the road they're like, well, let's tie that into the lore somehow.
Yeah, both are equally possible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good interview with Chris Metzen from back before he retired that I have linked much later on when we talk about the Terry Crews visit to Blizzard. Maybe we can just talk about it now, where Metzen kind of explains how they've basically been, penning the Overwatch story as they go. Like they're just kind of being fluid with it.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see that here. I could see that possibly being the way it went with Pharah's backstory, where it's just a cool skin. Why don't we work this into the lore somehow?
Right.
Or it could have gone the other way. I'm not saying it did. I have no way of knowing, but I just find it fascinating how fluid they're being with the writing of the characters.
It happens in all of their games. They don't sit down and write absolutely everything about it. They get inspiration from other things. In WoW, it's happened a lot as well. They do something, they create a character. It turns out everyone loves him, and they develop him into something more. And so, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all that the skin came first.
Yeah.
There's one really interesting aspect of the comic, though. It's how it humanizes both really evil characters in the game. Both, Reaper is, I was saying, sulking in a dark corner earlier. That's actually what he does. He's in a dark alley but looking at...
But there's so much more weight to it, right? When you're sulking in a dark alley, staring at a happy family.
Exactly. It's like, who are those? Is it his ex-wife who thinks he's dead? Or is it... What? And same with Widowmaker, who I feel very close to today for some reason. She's looking at she's at the tomb of her late husband, whom she killed, and we thought that she was completely frozen, and her heart was. I watched Frozen again for the first time since it came out, by the way. So if I burst out into songs and start singing "Let It Go," that's why.
Oh, you mean Tangled 2, right? The sequel to Tangled? Just Tangled again?
No. Tangled again. No.
I just sorry, getting off topic with a joke about how Frozen is just Tangled a second time, but not as good.
It is. It really is.
Anyway, sorry. Let's come back to Widowmaker.
Okay.
She's at the tomb, and she's not completely she does have emotions apparently, or maybe it's just during the holiday season it's too strong, she can't hold it in and she has to let it go, and so she actually is at the tomb. But so both of them apparently also have a more human side, but the Reaper one is more intriguing.
Yeah, I want to know more. Widowmakers is I get the story. You can see the story just in the picture. Reapers has questions. Which I like, because up until now, I mean, I've spent 30 some odd episodes now being like, Reaper's boring. He just yells die 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 and has a cool costume.
That is cool though.
He does have a cool costume, right? But it's like Hot Topic cool. It's not. It's true. It's not well written story cool.
I feel like eventually his storyline is going to be really good though. It's got depth, right? He's the guy that turns bad, and then even physically gets altered too. So eventually, I think once we find out everything about him, he's probably going to be one of the more deep and fascinating characters.
No, I think so too. That's always the character I'm traditionally drawn to in fiction. Like Vegeta is my favorite Dragon Ball Z character. Like I like the bad guy that turns good, or the good guy that turns bad, whatever it is. I like a fallen or a redemption story. Whichever direction we're going, I'm in. Which is the main reason I want more stuff like this. I'm really enjoying the extended universe of Overwatch, and I want long-form stories now. So, hey, can we get some news on a big fat graphic novel sometime soon, please?
Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Postponing it, or I guess officially canceling it. But I feel like it should have just be postponed, and now they started that publishing company or whatever, I think it's Blizzard. What was it?
Publishing. The name is
Blizzard
original.
Publishing. Yeah, exactly. It's so hard for me to remember it too.
Yeah.
No, but now that they started that, it feels like it should be just easy for them to start that project, and it doesn't have to be like tomorrow or anything. They could just give us a long date again, like next year or something. But surprised they haven't announced anything yet, because it was originally, it felt like the comic, the graphic aspect of Overwatch was an initiative for just the IP, and right now it seems like it definitely is secondary to the game. Obviously is primary, but it does seem a bit secondary compared, even just with these comics. And I don't know, we haven't seen an animated short in a while either. So I think generally it's been. Oh no, we saw one at BlizzCon. So
It was
I
someone
guess
at
it's like
BlizzCon,
2
which
months
was
ago.
it was the very
Yeah,
beginning
2
of
months ago.
November. So yeah, it does feel like it was a while ago, but it hasn't been that long.
Yeah.
But I'm sure all three of us here would like them constantly, all the time, as fast as they can put them out.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, graphic novel. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, graphic novel. Like, how long do you think it was going to be? You know, because if it's just like, let's say 100, maybe 150 pages or something like that.
I mean, it depends on
I wouldn't
what,
think it would take that long.
It depends on how they were going to release it, right? I mean, if they were going to just start with a trade paperback, go for it. But I mean, if they were going to do a more traditional, short comic release, I think like 4 issues is the minimum.
Right.
And anything above that, I would have been really happy with.
Oh, so you think
Yeah,
4
I
issues all at once, or
No. I mean, traditionally with
releases?
comics, you got like one, an issue every week.
right,
Kind of
right.
release, and you get like maybe 40 pages if you're lucky without ads and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I think they would need to do something that's substantial, because everything we've gotten so far is little snapshots into the character's character or life, and that is not enough. But I mean, if you're going to go for 80, 100 pages graphic novel, you need to actually craft a full story, and of course they can do it. But I think this is kind of it's sort of a blessing and a curse at the same time, because since it's missing now, we can sort of fill out the blanks ourselves. But once it isn't missing anymore, it sort of sets things. And of course, there are many storylines they can tell. But I do think that this is missing in the Overwatch universe, a full story from beginning to end, and not just a cool fight or a cool little, train derailed event with McCree yelling at people.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Pat. I mean, there's definitely something gained from mystery. I mean, we could sit here and have a whole new discussion just on, like back in the day. I thought the story of how Darth Vader became Darth Vader was really cool, but then when they actually showed us that story,
Exactly,
and it wasn't nearly as cool as it played out in my head.
It was also really badly done.
That was just poor writing.
Well,
I'm
using it as
everything.
I'm using it as an example. I don't want to get into a long, drawn out discussion of exactly why the prequels weren't as good as they could have been.
yeah.
But
I think
at the end of the day, I think there's still something. I think there's enough here where we could flesh some of it out. I don't think all of it needs to be fleshed out. I think some things should be, marred in mystery. But I mean, I would like, and I think what we're all kind of asking for is something. I want a through line. I want a cliffhanger, and then the pickup on the next issue where that left off, and follow a story from start to end. I like the vignettes. I don't want them to stop, but I would just like something more substantial.
Yeah, and I think they're in a position right now where maybe we haven't quite crossed that threshold of time where they either move forward with the story, at least with the content they make, comics or animated short, or they continue trying to flesh out the past. And up to this point, all these comics have been primarily giving us hints and past. It's for the most part, it's just been the past. And I mean, I'm starting to get to the point where I just want to know. Let's just finish like getting whatever backstories set in place, and then we can start seeing some new content moving forward. So unfortunately, the new content is the past for them too in some instances, right? So I think they need to just like nail it down, flesh out exactly what the backstory is for everybody, and then just present that to us so that we can move forward.
Yeah.
I think we might get that, new story thing in the future with a different game. I'm wondering if it might not
really
become like a more solo or, a more traditional experience.
Give me a Telltale style adventure game set in the Overwatch universe. Just don't let Telltale make it, because I would like it to look I would like it to look like it was made this century.
I think an FPS could be cool. FPS or TPS even, where you can play different characters at different. Oh well, anyway, this is all speculation. But I'm wondering if they're not preserving reserving the going forward story for another game. That might be cool.
Wow, that'd be pretty ambitious, or at least them being able to, I guess, anticipate all the success. And I don't know. It's just, if they do that, then what do they do with the other media? Like what would their movie be?
Oh, it's Blizzard. They have enough in that universe to tell a million stories. We're going to eat Overwatch for the next 20 years.
Yeah,
it's never going to go away. So
it is a
success it's had now.
It's Blizzard riffing on Marvel and DC culture, and those have been going on.
We know how that goes
for longer than all of us have been alive. So I think they'll be okay.
So we're talking 23 movies then.
Yeah.
And then crossovers, and then
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, eventually they'll build a portal and it will open a rift into the StarCraft universe.
Oh my god.
And then that rift will just keep growing, and eventually we'll have Heroes of the Storm the movie.
That's right.
Nice. That will be a funny. You know what? I could see Lego doing that.
I would watch the crap out of that, by the way.
You would watch a Lego Heroes of the Storm?
Yes.
I would watch anything Heroes of the Storm, but the Lego movie was so silly and fun, and the fact that they managed to make it somehow somewhat coherent makes me think that they might be able to do it for Overwatch, for Heroes of the Storm. Anyway,
moving on.
Yeah, we should probably.
Moving on. The one thing we didn't mention about Tracer in the comic is that I really want her powers now for Christmas shopping. I'm just putting that out into the universe.
You mean, being able to...
That would make Christmas shopping so much easier. Which is exactly what I would do with superpowers.
One thing you guys can explain a little. So in the comic, she obviously was in the store, grabbed the scarf, but then the guy just says, "Oh, we're closing," but doesn't ring her out. I don't.
No. She gives
it.
She gives it to the sad man who also wanted the scarf.
Oh, okay. I thought that was like a guy that was working in the store or something.
No. The Omnic is the one talking. The guy smiling, holding the scarf is the one she gave the scarf to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she's being a good person, Chris. She's being a good person. I know it probably doesn't register to us because you and I would just grab the toy and run. But yeah, she's a hero. She's a hero. Whereas I would just be like, cool, I can teleport. Now I'm just going to get all my shopping done last minute instead of helping people. So let's talk about the game itself. Kaplan invoked percentages on assault maps since we last recorded, talking about he was responding to a lot of folks on the forum expressing their disappointment with how often they run into draws on assault maps. So Kaplan hit us with the numbers. He said one of the problems we're interested in solving is lowering the rate that draws occur in assault. The worst offender is Hanamura. He said on a bad week, the map can draw as much as 18% of the time. And he even put that number in perspective. Control maps apparently draw 0%, payloads 0%, and hybrids draw on average 5.75% of the time. So he said your overall chance of a draw in competitive mode is 5.45%, which seems more than acceptable to us, but they're still looking at assault.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I feel I mean, Hanamura is definitely an issue, but I've always wondered why they don't just use the thirds, like in when we're capturing the points. Because there are certain, increments of that too, right? So if we can get a third, we get credit for a third. So I've never understood why they don't just give us, why doesn't that play into just the overall tie-breaking aspect of a draw? Because I definitely don't like the draw. Like, I mean, it's not terrible like it used to be with just coin flips and stuff like that. But it's very unsatisfying to get a draw, and I don't know if it's worth losing, but it doesn't feel great either.
It doesn't bother me that much, but I think I definitely prefer it to losing. But getting many draws in a row definitely feels annoying, and specifically on Hanamura because it kind of feels like, yep, this is gonna be a draw. You kind of it feels like I call it
too. I think both of those feel like there's a high chance. That second point is so hard to take, and it's just you feel like it's purely a map design issue that it's a draw, more so than it is that, oh, we're evenly matched here. And a lot of times too, it's just like one team will take the first point instantly and then literally be held at the second point for 7 minutes or something like that. And where the other team, would barely get the first point and then, end up just not getting the second point and it ends up being a draw. And it just doesn't feel, just doesn't feel like it was even.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
And this conversation keeps coming up, and I don't want stopwatch. Like, I agree.
Oh yeah.
I agree with Blizzard to a certain degree that like if you want to go with a slower, like deliberately slower strategy, like a slow, strong push, that you should be rewarded for that. I agree. I like that. I like that they're not just like rewarding rushes.
Yeah.
But
again, like I think if you get 2/3 of the point, you should beat the guy that gets, or beat the team that gets none of the point.
Yeah, I think that's the quote unquote easy solution. I think everyone was discussing things like these even before they changed the competitive system. And it makes a lot of sense. I think that would be a good default solution. I would be curious to find out if they could come up with something else, though, because I mean, first of all, the draw thing, the reason why it feels bad is that you've invested all of this time and effort, and it's kind of for nothing. And I understand that feeling for sure. 20% is not, it's too high, but it's not all the time. But I don't know, for me, for some reason, it would, how OCD I am, and having the thirds count in this but not in the others would look a little bit weird. Or maybe they have to make the thirds count everywhere, and then even the hybrid maps, you would also have the thirds that count if you don't fully capture the first point. Maybe it does feel like the reason for having those, the thing fully captured, it does have gameplay implications at the same time. Let's say you hold the others for as long as you can, and for the entire thing on the first round, and then the second round the other team goes in and all you need to do is capture a third. It's very different from having to capture the entire thing,
Yeah, so there's an advantage to the second. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it changes the gameplay dynamic a little bit. All of a sudden you have people who just dive. If you held them for the first round completely, then people will just dive, and getting a third is really easy if you dive. So I think again, it's better than drawing, but it feels to me like I would hope there would be another kind of solution. I don't know what it would be, but I'll be happy if it's the thirds. But I would hope that Blizzard comes up with a different kind of evening out thing. But yeah, we'll see.
I'm just happy to hear that they're looking at it, and I was also happy to see the like the worst case scenario on Hanamura is drawing 18% of the time. That's lower than I thought it was. It's still obviously higher than they would like, but it gives me facts to make me shut up.
Yeah, and I mean, in the end, guys, like the issue with the draw isn't necessarily a issue with the structure of how the scoring system works. It's more of an issue with just the design of the map. If they design maps that wouldn't have like the second point, the spawn, the spawn is like literally right next to the point. If we didn't have maps that were quite like that, then we wouldn't have this issue with draws, in my opinion. At least the 18% would be much lower.
Yeah, for sure.
So
well, no, because then
get past some of these old ones,
people could capture both points. I don't think it would. What you're saying is the problem is most of the time people capture the first one but not the second one because it's too easy to hold.
Well, the first one is advantageous to the attacker,
of course,
and then the second one's advantageous to the defender, right? So it naturally works out, on average, that it will draw. Like if each team does what they're supposed to do, then at least with each of the points, then it should draw like 1-1 a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it does 18% of the time. I think Hanamura especially is really peculiar because you also have only one spawn point for the defense. Although I guess it's the same thing for Volskaya anyway. So yeah, maybe I'm.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think one solution is adding another spawn point. I think another spawn point for the defender that's halfway kind of like what we see in payloads, right? Like we actually see different
Yeah.
spawn points once they reach, certain checkpoints.
But then the first point would be impossible to take as well. I don't know if that.
No,
would
as long
work.
as it's even, as long as it's like even distance between the two, it should be a fairly competitive point.
But it would advantage because then you would have attack. Defense being on equal footing as attack on the first point, and then on the second point, defense being more.
No, then you would then the
then
attacker
you
would have
push it
another
back
point.
again?
Yeah. No, then the
Oh.
attacker would have a second spawn point for the second point. That's
Okay.
Further up. Yeah.
I'd
so-
also-
Then I wouldn't. No, I don't think I wouldn't love it because you would make both point even. Basically, is what you're saying for attack and defense.
right.
Not sure. I like the little, the unevenness. I like the asymmetry of the design. I like that it's easier for attack on the first point and then easier for defense on the second point. I would
like
sort of
more-
be disappointed if they changed that.
I would like more stats from Blizzard before having diving too far into this conversation, because what we don't have is like the average time to take the first point on Hanamura, for example. But for us, anecdotally, it seems like it's very quick and a guaranteed take in most of our games. I'd like to see what it actually is.
Oh, it's definitely not guaranteed.
Yeah, no, for me
So
either.
like you,
Well, that's
definitely not
what I'm saying. That's what we're making it sound like with this discussion. So I'd like to see what the actual average is, because I've certainly had holds on Hanamura. Not a ton, but it happens.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what that is, to see how much of a, are we having a discussion now about fixing a real problem, or is this just our anecdotal thoughts? But,
one thing I'll say that is good about having the asymmetrical aspect of that, the design, is that your composition is decided sometimes by that. So if I'm defending first point, or at least our team is defending a first point, then Symmetra is a consideration, a Mercy is a consideration, just to be able to essentially have a second round of lives to defend that point. Where I wouldn't consider those. I wouldn't consider Symmetra on attack, right? Just at least the first point. I don't know. Maybe nowadays we do. I just don't. I don't quite. I'm not to that point yet, but
I had some really gross games with the shield generator yesterday.
Yeah.
I've had some horrible games with Symmetra being obscenely strong. She's just jumping around with her beam fully charged, and she's just like, "Yep, you're dead, and now you're dead, and now you're dead."
I had no problem
"You lack imagination."
killing the enemy Symmetra, but it was finding the shield generator. that was weird. We were swatting Symmetras like flies yesterday. But those shield generators, man, you got to find them.
Yeah.
Anyways, diving back into some lore speculation, Terry Crews has been seen visiting Blizzard campus.
Yes.
And Doomfist speculation is running wild. And I hope this is right, because I love me some Terry Crews.
So he has expressed interest in the game and expressed interest in actually playing Doomfist. Someone suggested it, and he was like, "I would love to play," with a deeper voice. "I would love to play Doomfist."
And now you just kind of sound like Reinhardt. But
Yeah. A little bit. But I don't think it's going to happen. I'm sorry, guys. I think there is zero chance, or maybe 0.1% chance of him actually playing Doomfist. The reason being, all of these voice actors that work for this game have to be available and relatively cheap whenever they need them. When they do a new holiday event, when they do they need to add lines for a new character to interact with, they're going to call them in and record again. I think Terry Crews is on the level of celebrity where he wouldn't be available enough, and his fee would be too much. Maybe they could get him to record the initial batch of voice lines, but if they need to call him every couple of months for 7 years, I don't think that's going to work out. So I don't see how it would. Maybe he could record some voice for something, that would be punctual, but I don't think he's going to be a regular character that needs more voiceover work over the years.
Well, Terry Crews, if you're listening, and I know you do, because this show is just that popular,
That's
let us
right.
know if you have an at-home recording studio, because that would influence my rebuttal quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I think it's possible for him to do it. Maybe the commitment is a little overwhelming for him. But if he's a big enough fan, I totally could see him doing it.
I would
don't think it's
also.
out of-
Sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No,
I would add to my rebuttal, Patrick. They probably have a pretty good idea of all of the holidays that they're doing now, so you could just have them record it all at once.
I guarantee you that they are calling back in people every 6 months or so for another recording session. They have not recorded everything.
Think that too.
I bet I'm sure that was the case after launch, and then they weren't sure. But now, like, we know they're going to do Halloween every year. We know they're going to do Christmas every year. We know every 4 years they'll probably have the Olympics. And I'm sure they've mapped out the other holidays that they're going to throw into the game. So I think a very large batch could be done in one fell swoop.
Yeah, but then you add another character and you think about a new interaction and you need more people to come in.
Yeah, but that's significantly more piecemeal than doing a whole set of lines for a big holiday. What I'm saying is I don't think they would call them in, record the basic lines, and then next Christmas be like, oh, crap, we forgot Doomfist for Christmas lines. That's not how it works.
No, of course. But I mean, the point is they add bits and little bits here and there all the time, and Terry Crews isn't available, I don't think, unless he loves it so much he's like, guys, I will come at any time for super cheap. I want to be in this game. And honestly,
he might.
I think it might be a good publicity for him to do this. I also worry that it would make him too much of a spokesperson kind of thing for Overwatch. You want your game to be the star of it. You don't want the famous actor person to be the star of your game. So I think there are a number of things here that don't add up. But we'll see.
Guys, the real question is, do we want Terry Crews as Doomfist in the movie?
Yes.
In the half CGI, half real people movie.
I think I would love Terry Crews in any movie related to anything, including Blizzard.
I would like a character with a Terry Crews bend to them. So I'm all in on this.
Oh man, he's hilarious. He's great. No, I think he probably even lives in the LA area. So even if he has to drop by Anaheim, it's probably not even that. I mean, if he does live in the LA area, it's not even that long of a drive or anything for him. It might be local for him. So I don't know. I hope he does. That'd be kind of cool. It's just kind of cool when you see celebrities that are nerds too.
I could see an Easter egg though. A cameo of some kind. Some computer or AI saying one thing on one map, and that being it. I could see that happen.
Yeah, just screaming something about Old Spice at the top of its lungs.
What do we know about Doomfist, by the way?
Very little. So the gauntlet that is the source of the fight in the first cinematic we ever saw for Overwatch is a Doomfist gauntlet. It's also the payload in Numbani, and one of the areas in Numbani is like it's kind of like a museum thing going on for the Doomfist gauntlet. It's like this Doomfist museum. And this, what I was talking about earlier was, if you haven't read it, there's a now older PC Gamer interview with Chris Metzen back from December of last year, so it's now a year old, and it's titled "How Blizzard is Making Up Overwatch's Story as It Goes," and they're talking to Metzen about how just characters just kind of evolve naturally, and they just come out of them riffing on the superhero genre. And he even talks about Doomfist. So this was a year ago that PC Gamer was prodding Chris Metzen about info on Doomfist, and there's not a lot. But he basically while he even used the term riffing when they were riffing on the character of Doomfist, they knew they had this gauntlet in multiple places. It was going to be in the cinematic. It was going to be in Numbani. They started throwing around the idea of whoever wielded this. So that's where Doomfist came from, and it was going to be what Metzen referred to as a generational hero. So there have been 3 people so far known as Doomfist. And they had specific names. You can see the banners hanging in Numbani. I see. I'm forgetting.
Oh, that's cool.
The specific terminology, and that there is a 4th Doomfist currently active right now. Okay, so the 3 were the Savior, the Scourge, and the Successor. And it sounds like
this. It lets your imagination run so wild. The way they're doing their storytelling, it's like you just give us this. and then you're like, oh my god, it could be this, it could be that, and like the Scourge could be an evil Doomfist, and the successor has a name that's written in some weird characters that could be some form of Omnic looking, characters. So it was humans initially, and then I don't know, it's really cool.
Well, one thing's for sure, those are the legendary skins, like the 3 previous ones. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, and it sounds like the current Doomfist is a bad guy from what very little information we can glean.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but and also he did confirm that like the current Doomfist is aware of the previous Doomfists. So
okay, but so previous ones, do we know? Do they get replaced when they die, or do they actually retire and stuff? Yeah, that's
we don't know that.
Okay,
also, don't know like if there's a current Doomfist, but there's a Doomfist gauntlet, and Nubani is the current Doomfist wielding a different Doomfist gauntlet.
That's a good point.
Which I'm assuming is the case. There's also a line. The Reaper has an in-game line that references Doomfist as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And another thing we didn't mention was the video, the year in review video from Jeff Kaplan that
developer
published.
update.
And it's not, it's just a general thank you. This is what happened this year. It's awesome video. So there isn't a lot to discuss. One thing he mentioned was they have multiple character in the works, but one is closer to being finalized, and they're starting to do the artwork. So of course everyone suspects it might be Doomfist. It might not be though. We're not sure. But yeah, it's not like this is a big revelation, right? It's not like we were like, oh my God, you have another character in the works.
No.
So yeah, but it's cool. It's still information, and I would think it's not Doomfist actually. But the really interesting thing is at this point we have no idea what character it could be. We have a few bits and pieces of speculation from all of the illustrations we've seen. But even that might be older, and so we don't know. We're entering an entirely 100% or 90% unknown area for Overwatch. The new ones are going to be surprises.
Yeah. No, Doomfist has to be a BlizzCon reveal, in my opinion. So if they are getting ready to release a character, maybe first half of the year, I hope it's not Doomfist, because I just want to see the epicness of it at BlizzCon when they do reveal that. That would be awesome.
What's wrong with you, Chris? I want him as soon as humanly possible.
No. I mean, I normally do too. Give me a different character.
Yeah, let's have another 8-month ARG that we dig through. Let's have that. Well, let's have them let's have them hold on to a hero that's finished just so we can have a sweet BlizzCon reveal. That sounds like the worst thing ever. I love you, Chris. But
I hope they have new characters before that, but save Doomfist for BlizzCon.
Unless he's done.
So you didn't mention the developers update, Patrick. So the one thing I'll say, he didn't say too much, but I'm still getting super excited about the whole the different servers. Like the
server browser.
Yeah, server browser. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I'm getting excited
about
that.
Server browser. It's just you set up your custom game and you can look at custom games that are public and enter, so you can have specific rules that could be fun, right?
Yeah, and I think I feel like that is the beginning of getting closer to things like possibly map editors. Hopefully they'll make that available, and maybe some mods, because a lot of the most successful FPS games have been, or at least the most successful FPS maps have been user generated, in things like TF2 and games like that. So I'm thinking that's a place that could really thrive too in Overwatch if they make it available. And server browser sure is just mostly custom in games right now, arcade games right now, but eventually it leads down that route, in my opinion. Maybe eventually people could have their own, just their own mod server, and that sort of thing.
Wow. So it would be very interesting to have like custom maps and stuff like that. I don't know that if it ever happens, it would be very far down the line. But you're right. Blizzard has a history of enabling deep modding of their games, so it could happen.
I'm always for just leveraging the masses, when it comes to that.
I am too.
StarCraft had a huge opportunity with their arcade. Literally, all these people that just want to make games on their platform for virtually nothing, and they just didn't leverage it enough.
Well, it's something they've moved away from. I think,
which is surprising
in recent years, and it's I think very disappointing.
Yeah, totally.
I would love some plugins for Hearthstone. Just saying, since they will make a tournament mode.
I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yes,
I don't know what it would
yes
be,
and no for me. I've seen the thing is, for some games it works really well, and for some others it's a bunch of. It's really rare that this works out. It's also a lot of subpar things you never really go to. I mean, obviously for Blizzard, we've seen tower defense and MOBAs come out of the of the Warcraft 3 modding capabilities. So it's not like I don't understand that it can become huge. But yeah, I wouldn't be, let's say I would be happy to see what happens. I wouldn't necessarily think that it wouldn't be a fantastic addition that would bring us lots of awesome game modes. I think it would bring us a lot of average things, and maybe if we're really lucky, some cool ones.
You don't have to play the average things, Patrick. Who's forcing you to play these average games? I feel bad for you.
No, I agree. I'm just saying you guys seem very enthusiastic about it. I'm not certain.
Because I think more is good. You just avoid the crap. I mean, look at do you play WoW with 0 mods?
It's more of a design conversation at that point. I do think there is value in saying no and in not allowing for more. More is not always good, in my opinion. But anyway, that's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, server browser could be fun. The one thing I'll agree with you on is if they do end up doing that server browser or custom game browser, I would love to have more things that you can change and switch, like some, I don't know, gravity switches or some I have no idea, but more, because now there's a lot you can change, and it would be fun to have things that make the game really crazy. And the limit between this and actual mods is probably a little bit thin, but I don't know, we'll see.
Fair enough. Anyways, before we move on, let's thank our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/Overwatchers, of which there are now 100 of you. We've hit 100 patrons.
Yes. Woohoo!
Wow, we had a big surge since our last episode. We're only $65 away from our first goal. 65 of you out there. All you have to do is give $1. $1.
Exactly.
And we hit our first goal.
$1.
You know, it's really heartwarming because we did sort of make a little speech about the fact that this is how we make our living, and that this is our job, and a lot of people listen, and not many were choosing to support this show, some for good or bad reasons, but many people seem to have responded, and it's really heartwarming, especially in this holiday season. So thank you so much to all of those that already decided to support the show. And if you were thinking about it, please make sure you consider it seriously and go to the site maybe and look at this. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Also, 130 at 50 cents. Put it that way. Oh yeah.
Okay.
We can just keep breaking it down.
Lucio, break it down.
But a huge thanks to our Patreon producers, LVE.game, and our newest producer, Bloody Shy. Apparently not shy enough to put a handle to be publicly read on a podcast. And also this week, thank you to Charles H., Ben C., Kenneth H., Ryan C., Jason, no last name given, Lance B., Philip, no last name given, and Grimace, 92. Not 91, not 90. Grimace, 92. What happened to the first 91?
Ooh, maybe it's like Doomfist. The Grimace is a generational patron.
He's not purple. He's actually blue.
Yeah, he's not a purple monster that feeds that sells you fries at McDonald's. It's a blue one.
That's right.
Yeah, but then it would just be Cookie Monster.
Okay,
that would be good too.
Could be green.
I do love Cookie Monster because few people understand my love of chocolate chip cookies. Now, Patrick, what have you brought for the strategic-minded out there?
So there was a video from the channel Overwatch Central, which is a really fun channel to follow on YouTube if you want to keep appraised and improve in Overwatch. It's Ryan and Miska that create these videos, and this one is they have a series on mastering different heroes, and this one is about Lucio. And it features DSP Stanky, who's a master Lucio. And oh my God, how, you think you know what Lucio does. I think we've mentioned things like this before, but it's not just about wall riding, which is the first obvious thing that comes to your mind. But it's wall riding and taking advantage of the switches in speed that are provided to you by the switching from healing to speed, but also of course the amp it up ability. But then the way the guy plays is unbelievable. It's like you really have to watch it to understand how crap you are at Lucio. The way he handles the everything, it's like this is a different. I've never seen. I don't think, there are lots of characters that you realize you don't play well because you don't aim as well as the pros, right? That's easy to understand. Or maybe some Reinhardt that has perfect understanding on when to put your shield down and when to rush in with your hammer swinging and things like that. And you understand that they get the game better than maybe you do. The way that guy plays Lucio, and I'm sure there are others, is out of this world. It's like I didn't think it was possible to do things like these with the wall riding specifically, but in general, the way he integrates the wall riding into his overall play style is
it's very
the way he chases people down, like the aggression from this Lucio is terrifying.
Well, I mean, it's the like. It's kind of like what Patrick's saying. It's like the really good Lucios, they almost feel like Genji. Like the way they're able to just bounce and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how they do it so fluidly, but I don't know if they're using the wheel or it's just like when I do it, I literally have to like hold down the space. Like there's certain jaggedness to it where this guy literally is like bouncing like I would if I was playing Genji, and that allows for so many cool angles, like to get your boops and I mean, look at this guy, like knocking people into the pit and just, even doing damage, like Garrett was saying. I mean, it's amazing.
And the sheer amount of...
To expand on what you're saying, Chris, the way for those who aren't watching the video, if he has a corner somewhere or two pillars, he will get up at the top of the map in he doesn't need to wall ride for a long time. He will get at the top of the map in 3 seconds. It's incredible. Yeah,
he gets up to the top of the wall and he goes Left 4 Dead style and just comes falling right on top of you and boops you into the pit or poops you into the wherever it is, knocking you off the map.
These extended periods of time where he just never touches the ground, that just boggles my mind. And just makes me go...
And those Lucios are hard to kill. The ones that are in the air.
Yeah, and now I'm just looking at this being like, man, I'm never going to play Lucio again. This is just pointless. I can do this on Mercy when there's a fair to heal.
It's crazy. Crazy. So go check out that video. Again, it's the Overwatch Central channel. They're getting pretty popular. They've been around for a long time, and especially that Lucio video is insane. Mm-hmm. So if you want to find out what a really good Lucio can do, and maybe pick up a couple of tips as you're being amazed, then go check it out.
Was it the last show that we talked about? There was a video that was with Lucio with a master or grandmaster player that where he went step by step too. Was that last week?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it might be on Overwatch Central also, but there's been some really good Lucio videos recently. But there was one that literally was walking step by step through Ilios, pausing and telling him like his thought process through the entire thing. And that was very eye-opening too, especially when to switch to speed and when not to. I had to look for it and link it again, or maybe bring it up next week. But that one was very, very eye-opening because it was much more possible than like bouncing on the wall like this guy. This one was just merely decision making and huge things though. Yeah.
Interesting. We'll try to find it.
Yeah, I'll find it for next week.
I'll just link in the show notes if you haven't seen it. But go check it out if you haven't. Again, Overwatch Central. Now, the community roundup. Most of the stuff is Tracer reactions, which we've already talked a decent amount about. But if you haven't seen the Reddit thread titled "Did Blizzard Really Have to Shove It Down Our Throats Like That?"
Oh, God.
Go read it. Go read it, please. It is not what you think it is.
It was really funny. Basically, it's obviously some guy said baiting for the Tracer is gay thing, but then talking about how Torbjorn, he is forced to see Torbjorn with his stupid kids and his wife, and McCree having the drinking problem and all of this, and he's really angry. It's 3 lines, but then Reddit being Reddit, they sort of riffed on the idea that now they have to think of Torbjorn having a wife. And there is a series of comments which in that context make Torbjorn's quotes interesting.
When you put it in the very blue context of what Torbjorn would be like in the bedroom, you can warp you can warp his lines in very disturbing fashion.
So yeah, basically, if we read a couple of them, the first one started with molten core, and then I'm giving it all I've got. Hard work pays off, and etc. etc.
Well, the one that wins is my turret. Pound, pound, pound. That's the one that wins. All Reddit karma goes to that comment. This has been
all standing around, and when there's work to be done, all of them work. It's amazing.
Yep. And we hope you have enjoyed this 5th grade version of Overwatchers. Thank you, everyone.
That's right.
But without a doubt, my favorite was the special Russian edition of the Overwatch Tracer Reflections comic, because this comic was not translated into Russia because of their extremely backward views on homosexuality. And replacing Tracer's girlfriend's face with Putin is the best thing I've seen all year. Thank you, whoever did this.
Oh, man.
It's really good. They also altered the dialogue. Basically, Tracer at some point is saying, "So I'm really sorry, heterosexual man friend. It's just one thing, then another, blah blah blah." And it's interesting.
Yeah. The addition of heterosexual man friend is.
I have to say the part that creeps me out the most is that Putin has his eyes open when he's kissing Tracer. That just freaks me out. Totally freaks me out.
I agree. This is kind of creepy.
Oh God, that's great. I didn't scroll down. I missed that. I thought it was just the first. I thought it was just the first page.
Yeah.
Oh, that is.
So the reactions from the Overwatch community to all of this were really funny. So
yep.
There you go.
Oh my God,
there's a couple of others in there if you want to check them out in the notes.
At the end, it says, "I can finally spend the holidays with my heterosexual comrades again." This is fantastic. I love it. This is so freaking terrible. Oh my God, and there's Smirnoff vodka on the table next to the turkey.
Yeah, it's really
I apologize to our Russian audience that I'm getting such delightful glee out of stereotypes, but it's funny, damn it.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's really good. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. You also put this in, and I missed this request from a player of Overwatch who is deaf to add subtitles to the game, which I didn't even realize were not an option.
Yeah, it's just a small thing, I'm sure the Reddit and the forums. Oh, and by the way, Reddit is growing so much. I think it's the 2nd biggest gaming subreddit now. It just overcame the /r/sex subreddit. So Overwatch is officially more popular than sex. There you go. On Reddit.
Wow. And if we tie that back into the Torbjorn discussion a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's right. And all of a sudden, we're not 5-year-olds after all.
But yeah, so there was in that subreddit, the Overwatch one, James Wild posted a request, which is, there are tons of them, I'm sure. I thought this one was really reasonable and probably relatively easy to integrate, because sound plays such a big role in the game. If you don't know that someone is starting their ultimate on your side or on the enemy team, you're not going to be playing as well. And of course, for a player that doesn't, that's deaf, they're not going to have a way to pick up on that. And subtitles would make most of this possible. Right, so I'm sure it would be relatively easy for the Overwatch team to implement this. I'm saying relatively. I'm sure there is some development time required, but they're always trying to be really good about these kinds of things in their games, and they do have options for color blindness that try to address most of those issues. So yeah, that would be cool. Green for your team's ultimates and red for the enemy's ultimates or something like that, and it would be enough. So there you go. I think it would be really, and also for the voice lines and stuff like that, when you're saying you need healing, and if you're not looking in the direction of the character that's saying it, you don't see that they're the little icon that requests healing, and all of those things. It would make for a really, really good addition to the game.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd mention it.
I believe red-green is the most common form of color blindness, though. So maybe those colors would.
Yeah, but you also have options to change so they would be integrated in the color blindness options in the game too. Right, so if you can set it to this or that type of color blindness and have it affect the subtitles.
Yeah, that would be good. And also, we spent so much of this episode talking about lore, not just about getting tipped off for ultimates. You miss out on all the fun banter lines, man. You'd miss out on all of the Easter egg lore bits from not having subtitles.
True. Yeah,
that's true.
And then there's one last thing that I put up on the community roundup, which is something really cool that started happening, I think, a couple of weeks ago. It's basically someone made a video. I think it was the original one was just for one character, basically splicing together different skins into the same highlight intro for a character. So it would be like Mercy spinning around, and every time she would spin, she would switch skins, and it would be timed, the cut would be timed at the right time so that you wouldn't actually see the switch. It would just be like this weird magical video result where she is just spinning around and she has different skins. It's weird. And everyone picked up on it and started making lots of different versions of this with different characters. Some of them were kind of funny as well. And I linked the main one in the show notes. There are basically, it's 2 minutes long, and there are lots of different characters. It looks, for some reason, I don't know why, but it looks really good. So go check it out if you want to be impressed by something like that.
Very cool. And moving over to you, Chanman, what's going on in Overwatch eSports? Even though it's December 28th and we're not supposed to be having any eSports going on, and a cat just jumped on my desk. Hello, Dexter.
Well, for the most part, the last week and even the remainder of this week, there's pretty much nothing going on. But since the last show, we did have that big weekend right after the last show, where we had MLG Vegas and IM Gyeonggi, which was in Korea, finish up, and a few big things happened there. I mean, for just spoilers for those of you who didn't get a chance to watch the VODs, NVS ended up winning over FaZe in the finals, and not really that big of a surprise, but it was a little bit in question whether NVS would end up performing as well as they normally have, because Taimu, who's their best, one of their best DPS players, most notable DPS, but I think everybody knows Taimu at this point on NVS. He got stuck with his flight to Vegas So he came in late. They had to actually postpone some of the matches or move it around in the schedule so that they could play. And then he actually got an ear infection and was like really, really sick too. So he literally just flew in, zero practice, like literally went to the stage and played. But Taimu being Taimu, he's still amazing even when he hasn't warmed up. So they ended up doing fine. They ended up winning in the end. Nothing really to report there, except for Mickey was his very charismatic and funny self in all the interviews, and definitely one of the highlights of the event. And the big question whether Envious is going to sign him or not was still one of the biggest things being asked. And at the very end, Hasbro, the owner of Envious, just came out of nowhere. It was like with an interview with Mickey or I think one of the other team members. Literally came out of nowhere on the stage and walked up and said, "Yeah, we're gonna sign him." Like literally, that's like how it was revealed that they were gonna sign Mickey. So really great news for him, and great news for the roster, because Mickey has worked wonders for them, and even just from the standpoint of his play with Diva and off tank. But on top of that, he's just a fun guy. Like the team is very happy since he's been added, and they seem more loose. He's just, I don't know if you guys have seen interviews with him, but he's a total lovable dude. Have you guys seen any interviews
Nope.
with the guy?
No.
Okay,
No.
you need to look it up because he's so funny. It was just with a broken English mixed with he's got a great smile and laugh and everything. You should check it out. They're definitely awesome. But anyways, yeah. So MLG Vegas, some good showings from FaZe with Shadowburn. Definitely great match of the tournament was FaZe versus Fnatic in the semifinals. You guys should check that out if you get a chance. I linked the VOD here in the notes. And then I am Gyeonggi. This is the tournament that had Rogue and Misfits, the new rosters in it.
Yeah.
Playing against some of the top Korean teams. So a lot of us were really wondering what each of the teams were going to look like. And this tournament was only 6 teams. So not too many, there were like 2 teams got buys. Neither of the Western team got buys, so we actually saw them play in the first round. Both of them lost though, and I think the conclusion from this is that they need more time to really gel and really figure out what's going to work best. But no immediate success, no immediate showing there. They're not, they definitely weren't good enough to beat some of these, some of the top Korean teams, or at least some of the top tier ones, or at least in the same bucket as the top teams. So still some work to do there, but I think in the coming year we're going to see Misfits and Rogue both kind of surge up there, maybe even push Envious. But end of 2016, clearly Envious is the best team in the world right now, no question.
Do you think with Overwatch League and everything kind of just getting bumped up in quality, and I think the seriousness that Blizzard's taking things, do you think we should kind of return to December being an off season?
I would love to see an off season, just period, in esports. Yeah, I mean, this is a discussion that's even in Hearthstone too. That it's just it's just oversaturation for me. And the problem with an off season for a league like OWL is that let's just say it's like a 3-month off season. The problem is that all these other event organizers are going to organize events during that off season. So as a spectator, you really don't have an off season where you can not have the game, and then you miss the game, and then you get super hyped up when the season starts. Kind of like you do with football or basketball or whatever sport you love. We don't have that in esports, and I don't know. For me, as a fan of and just knowing myself just from traditional sports and how I look at that, I think that's missing. Like too much is not a good thing sometimes. And a lot of people disagree with me, but for me, I just would like to feel the hype for any of the esports that we follow, and I don't really feel it. I think the perfect example would be the international, right? The international is like the extreme. There's not even like seasons. For a while, it was just one tournament for the entire year. But whenever we got to that tournament, it was just so hype, and it's like the Super Bowl, right? We still think of it as the Super Bowl of esports. If we could get at least some inkling of that, with the leagues each season, that'd be great. I just don't know if it's possible because, the third parties are going to want some time to be able to do it. Blizzard's allowing them to do it too, which is good. I think the Blizzard should allow them. But as a spectator, I wish I could siphon that off. I can choose not to watch it, but it's kind of hard not to watch it when it's on Twitch, and it's what everybody's talking about. Especially when we have podcasts, we have to talk about these things.
Well, and I think it'd be like having an off season too. It's not like all competition has to cease, but if at least the official leagues had a certain off season, that I think it would also because there's always the talk of like, well, where do grassroots tournaments exist in a world post Overwatch League and these other official leagues? And it's like, well, they can still happen, especially if there is an off season. There'd be plenty of, I think, community run tournaments, and sure, maybe not as many pro teams show up, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You could have unsigned teams make a name for themselves in the off season, maybe get some hype going for the qualifiers for the next season.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great for sure. The only thing I would not like to see is just if all the top teams end up just playing in these tournaments. Like we have MLG whatever during that, and we literally see the same matchups. Like the worst case is when you have the World Championship finals, right, at wherever it is, and then the next week you have some kind of third party event having the same teams, and then you see the same thing happen again. Yeah, that would be weird. I just that devalues.
Or you don't see the same thing again. Like you see the same teams in the finals, but a different team wins, and it's just like, well,
exactly.
Are they really the world champion? Like
that's right.
I think it's good that we get it clarified that yes, they're very evenly matched. These are two very good teams, but you're right. There's a certain amount of the spectacle that's taken away by this just non-stop train of competition.
Yeah, and it happens in Hearthstone. Like we would have. I think it was Osaka. He won the world championship, and then literally the next week he's at Seed Story, and he loses.
Yeah, so Although I would argue, at least in Hearthstone, then we sometimes get finals that are worth watching as opposed to the ones that actually happen at the World Series, at the World Championship, because they're typically pretty boring. Yeah. The Seed Story finals I thought were phenomenal.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But that's just me being a little. It's like this curse of Blizzard finals, honestly. I think going back to the early StarCraft days, StarCraft 2 days.
The semis are the best.
Yeah, the semis are the actual finals. But no, I've been kind of thinking on that as well, because I'm not paying attention right now. It's Christmas. I'm seeing my family, hanging out with friends, and like I'm on Twitter. I'm like, why are there still tournaments going on? I can't keep up with this. I have eggnog to drink. But
I know, right? And it's again, we have shows, so we have to watch them, or at least cover them a little bit.
Yeah.
So I do miss the days where December is. At least this week, or at least this kind of Christmas week, it tends to be very quiet. So we've got 1 week out of the year, 1 week where it's like off season, I guess you could say. But it'd be nice if it was a little bit longer.
Yeah, but. All right, let's wrap it up with an email or two. You can send your emails to mailoverwatchers@gmail.com. We got many, many, many responses to Patrick's therapy session on the previous episode.
Awesome. That's great.
Really everywhere you could reach us, whether it was YouTube comments, emails, or Twitter. Definitely not going to read all of them, but we will take one of them. Jazabel writes in and says, "Hey, Overwatchers, this is for Patrick. It's the system, not him. Still learn from your mistakes and all, but don't let it bring you down." Jazabel says, "I was in the same boat as Patrick. I solo queued, mained DPS, switching between Pharaoh Reaper and Junkrat, but filled spots to make team comp better and averaged mid-gold last season. I had 5 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, with numerous golds in my placement matches. I thought I did well, but I placed into high 1700s in silver. What a bummer. But I kept playing, won 2/3 of my games, and now I am in platinum. The same thing happened to my friends. Nice. They came in low, but are now back at what they averaged last season. As much of a downer placing silver was, the win streaks I had were pretty rewarding, and seeing all the confused players when I flanked the other team was rather entertaining. It takes time to get back up, but you got this, Patrick. All of you keep up the awesome work in these therapy session podcasts."
Thank you so much, Jezebel. It really... It really does help to hear that you're not the only one in this situation. However, I did, as I said earlier in the show, I'm still trying to get back up there. So I really feel like I've been, I don't know if it's unlucky, but I haven't played many games. Maybe, Chris, you can tell me if that actually, Garrett as well, since you play a lot of Heroes and other games. I've only played about 50 to 60 games at this point, and I'm wondering if it means anything yet, or if you really have to play more for it to average out. Because what happened was, initially I climbed in a couple of sessions, I climbed up to 1950, so it was almost gold. And I felt pretty good about it. I was like, okay, I placed low, but I'm gonna get back up. And then in a couple of sessions, 2 or 3, I went back down to basically the level I was placed in, which was 1700 or so, and it again put me in that same space I was last time, which was feeling horrible about it. And the thing is, it really feels like I'm doing pretty well in the games, and it's always difficult to separate whether or not I'm doing well and I'm just having incredible bad luck and having teams that just don't gel, or things happen. But with Soldier, I try to play Soldier mainly. I have a 60% win rate, so pretty good, right? Overall, in comp this season, I have a 40% win rate. So
Wow.
it's it feels like I'm so I try to fill in when I don't, when the games go badly, I fill in, but this last session I played earlier today, thankfully I won 3 and lost 1. Basically, my numbers when I look over Master Overwatch to see how I did, I had like 3 eliminations per minute. That's like top 2%. You can look at the the percentile in the on the site. I have a 5.17 kill death ratio for that session specifically, right? Damage, I'm in the top 1%. Like, that's obviously a great session. I did really well. I probably had great teams. They were super hard. Like, I had to be 100% focused for 20 minutes at a time. Like, I was sweating, I was stressing, and but I did really well. But overall, it feels like, again, I'm sort of in that place where I don't know what's going wrong. And my win rate is 40%, and still I'm if you look at where I am now, I'm still climbing a little bit. So my understanding is I'm doing well for my team, and it's just that the teams so I guess my question is, to summarize it, because we're not going to spend all the whole episode talking about this, but my question is, 50 or 60 games, I'm currently at 55 or so. Wait, not even, sorry, 45. So I'm even lower than this. It's possible that this is a statistical anomaly, basically, and that I just got bad luck because of whatever, and I should play more. Would you advise me to play like at least 100, 200 games for the season to really know where I should be placed?
I mean, I think generally speaking, yeah. I mean, generally speaking, you need to play like hundreds of games to be accurately placed. But at the same time, there's a different dynamic, which is, I guess, general luck, with who you end up with and what you get to pick. Because it sounds like when you pick Soldier, you're climbing, like, clearly, easily. Like, 60%, you're definitely climbing, right? So whenever you're having the switch is, I think, where you're taking like a big loss. If your average is 40, then you're probably only winning like 20% of the time. I'm just rough average, right? When you're not playing Soldier. So that's a clear indication you should be playing Soldier. You should be playing some kind of DPS, right? I mean, that's just clear. And even if they don't change, like, even if they, like, if you have to fill that, asking people to fill isn't the worst part sometimes. Like, a lot of people will change because they, they'll understand that, you're a better player. And especially if your profile shows that you play a lot of Soldier, then people are much more willing to let you play Soldier if they can play something else.
That is so similar to the advice Kyle gives in Heroes. It's hilarious.
Yeah. It's true. And
Kyle's
if you are... Or go ahead.
I was going to say, Kyle's whole kind of mantra for trying to climb and solo queue in Heroes is just, show your pick as soon as you can and and just believe and know that you're the better player on that hero, or whatever that hero may be.
It's true.
Obviously, back it up. Go and look at your stats. Make sure you're not like, I'm the best tracer, and overbuff is showing you have a 20% win rate with her. But if you're handily over a 50% win rate with a certain hero, and you know what you bring, and you know how you can pilot that hero, fight for it.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice. And secondly, if you can't pick soldier, what I've noticed is that like in the lower skill levels, or when you're getting in gold, silver, and bronze area, a lot of times it's just the DPS players just aren't very, they're not good enough, just to carry themselves. So pick supports that assist, them in killing people. So Zenyatta, Discord.
I did my placements this week. Finally had some. I'm sure someone's going to tweet at me. Schedule scrub. I am, and I admit it.
Right.
Been busy with Christmas, so finally had some time. I'm like, I'm going to sit down and do all of them. Yeah, and I played Zenyatta every single game. I won 6. I got 1 draw first game, 6 wins in a row, another draw, and then won the rest of my game. So I went 8, 0, and 2.
Wow.
And got placed lower than I ended last season, so I'm a little miffed at the system right now.
I don't understand
what's your placement?
I placed at like it was 20. I think it was like 2050.
Okay.
And I ended closer to 2200 last season.
Yeah, that's odd.
So
man.
I found that's the best win streak I've ever had in the history of this game. I'm very confused by the placement, but whatever. I mean, it certainly seems from a lot of the folks that I've talked to that everyone's been placed a little lower this season. There seems to be a bigger emphasis on using the season to climb up. Yes.
They said they would place us lower so that we can climb. I'm fine with it if I can climb. I just don't understand why I'm not managing to climb at all. It's especially with a... Well, yeah, and some people, are telling me you should play as a team. Don't go solo queue. It's horrible. But, and same, during the holiday season, people are playing badly. I understand all of this, but they're playing badly for both teams. They should have the horrible comp every once in a while. And when I'm, the enemy team, they could have players that don't know what to do, and And so that's why I think, and I also don't want to get carried by a team. I want to make it on my own. I want to show that we're not talking about masters here. We're talking about freaking silver. And it feels like when I'm playing, I'm carrying. I hate this because I don't want to be the guy who says I'm carrying. I'm sure I get other good players, but I'm like, I had a game, I had to switch to Junkrat for some reason, and I had a game I had like 75 kills
my God.
during the game. It was a long game, but I'm like, I'm really doing it. So I feel maybe it's just, it's I have to believe that it is the statistical anomaly. I just got obscenely unlucky for a series of games, and I have to just keep playing, and eventually I just want to get back to gold. That's all I want. At this point, I will take scraps, I'll just be happy if I'm back in gold. But
so have you looked at...
That's what I mean. Just keep playing DPS. Like, literally just keep picking that DPS, because it's a different, this whole, like, we play this comp, or you should be playing this comp because it's the meta or whatnot. It's completely different in that silver area. Completely. Yeah. And DPS is very, I think it's stressed even more in that area because, in the end, you have to kill people in Overwatch, and when you do, like, that's the only way to take points. It's the only way to, actually progress and win rounds. And if your characters that are supposed to be dealing the overall damage isn't doing it, then you're going to lose. It's a very simple thing when it comes down to it. So if you feel that you are, better than average at that level, at the silver level, you should absolutely play DPS every time. Yeah, if you can. And just deal the damage, man.
And have you
Garrett,
looked at
you were going to say something?
I was going to ask if you've looked at, because you talked about your Soldier 76 stats and saying that you have a 60% win rate with them. Have you looked at your losses, like who you were on when you lost, so you can maybe draw some conclusions there to be like, I should stop playing this hero?
So the thing is, it's really hard to parse because I usually switch when I feel like we're not doing well and there's something missing in the comp, but we're already, a couple of minutes in, and which is going to be really a huge struggle to try and get the win. So, for example, if they have I don't know, if they have squishies that are destroying us, I'll switch to Winston, but we have 2 minutes to get the point, and I have like a 0% win rate on Winston on this season, but I played 4 matches that were, kind of done already. So that's kind of difficult to parse, but certainly, even Junkrat, I know I'm a good Junkrat. And even the stats, I have a 33% win rate, and both it's 2-4, so 2 wins, 4 losses, and the 2 wins I think I played today. But still, on the stats, I have better stats on Junkrat for most of it than I do on Soldier. So I do like, what is it, 3 kill death ratio, or although Soldier is 3 overall as well. But anyway, I have good stats with Junkrat, so it's sort of difficult to parse, but what I know with the relative certainty is what we were saying. Soldier, I have a 60% win rate on 20 games now, so it's not a fluke. So 60%, maybe I should just keep playing Soldier, whatever happens, unless there's an obvious reason to switch. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep going. And thank you so much to all of the people who sent message of encouragement. It really feels like I'm to get back to the psychology aspect of it. It's almost like I feel shame in being silver, not because I think being silver is shameful, but because I've played hundreds of hours and I'm doing it seriously, and that's I feel like I should be able to achieve a little bit more than silver. But we'll see. I'm going to stick with my story that this is statistical anomaly. I'll keep playing, and I hope I can get back up a little bit.
Yeah, I think sure. I think kind of maining a couple heroes is really the way to go. It's kind of what I noticed I should be doing after finding so much success with Zenyatta. Because I don't know, like when Overwatch first came out, I was just like, oh yeah, it's a game about switching heroes, and I just feel like I should switch heroes. And we talk about all the time that we think the future of esports, the star players are going to be the flex players, the players that can really play just about any role that needs to be filled for the situation that they are in. But what we also mentioned on the show is that information we gain from esports is not really that helpful in a solo queue environment, because a lot of times you're not talking to your team, you're not strategizing over voice as you should be. So you have to think about it more of like, what can I bring alone by myself? Like, how much can I influence this game by myself in a positive way? And that usually means really narrowing down your stable of heroes to a few that you excel with.
I think that's something I've realized a little bit more with this sort of season, including quick play. I'm training a little bit in quick play and being goofy sometimes as well. But the fact that with Soldier now, and he's a relatively easy character to play, but there are things I didn't really realize that I was not doing wrong, but didn't really master the character. I think I didn't realize there was so much you could go so deep into understanding the character. Little things like getting, if a Soldier is the direct counter to Pharah, right? But sometimes Pharah is just too far. You're not a sniper, and you're a mid-range character. If she's too far, you're probably not going to be able to get her down unless you're this godly aimbot person that plays pro. So maybe I shouldn't focus on Pharah if she's too far. Maybe I should keep peppering everyone with my machine gun, or maybe I should run away. The other thing, I guess this is true for Soldier, but in general, unfavorable engagements, just run away from them all the time. Like that's something I've learned that I didn't do before, especially with Soldier. It's like, if you realize there's 2 characters against you, don't be the freaking hero. You're not going to win. 80% of the time you're going to die.
Unless it's
for the
snowball
20% of the time where you're going to brag to your friends, you're going to make your team lose 80% of the time, lose ground at least. So unfavorable engagement, run away, right? Things like that.
I mean, one of the things I've had to tell my son, like one of the biggest things, that he's had to learn to get better, at least in competitive play, is that you have it goes to what you just said. You have to avoid like that kind of frag mentality where you're willing to trade one for one. Like if you're the DPS player, if you're the DPS player, you cannot trade for one for one. Like you just have to the damage done is actually a more important stat than eliminations. It's a hard way of thinking of it because everybody is always trying to finish people, and it is good to finish people. Don't get me wrong, but if you never die a soldier, you're going to be dealing like 20,000 damage, and that's 20,000 plus damage, and you're going to win if you've dealt that much damage. Unless they have a phenomenal healer or whatever. So yeah, I mean that's really important. And when you watch the pros, they're literally running. They turn their backs and run. Like they don't strafe back. They don't walk backwards or straight. They turn around and run.
That's what I've started to do now. And again, the stats and I don't know these stats. I don't know if they're the overall site, and so it doesn't mean much because since I play mainly a DPS, obviously I'm going to be doing more damage than the average player. Sure. But in damage per minute, I'm like over 1,000, which tells me on Master Overwatch it's like top 23%, and things like that. I do turn my back and run. Now, when I feel like I'm 2/3 of the health down, and I feel I'm a little bit threatened, I run away and live to fight another day. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I'm doing so well with Soldier. To get back to your point, Garrett, is I've learned how to manage that character a lot better than I did before. And it's sort of a switch from what I used to do, which was, I'll play whatever is needed. I have a reasonable understanding of how that character is played, but I don't. And another thing I found, which was really encouraging, was how much better my aim has gotten. And I didn't realize this with Soldier because, I played him, whatever. But I realized when I switched to Zarya, I used to play Zarya and wasn't able to aim for my life with the main, the left click. I used to play a lot with right click, and left click would be whenever I have time for it, and I know there's a bunch of people clumped up. I switched to Zarya a little bit and did really well with aiming. Like I would chase characters down, and would kill them. Like Zarya is a beast anyway, but I would actually kill lots of people. Like when I was putting my sights on someone, they would be gone, and that was because I could aim with her cone, her death cone thing. And so I guess that's another thing, which is I started playing FPSs seriously a year ago, right? And so these things are learning to aim, learning to the dynamics of the game take time. It's obvious that you're not going to be doing as well, clearly as a pro, but even as someone who's been playing TF2 or Tribes or all of these games who are maybe placed in Platinum or Masters or, Platinum or Diamond or these things, who are playing maybe a little bit casually, but who are used to all of those games. So anyway, I have courage. I have will. It's just it gets me down when I get into a 7 games losing streak, and I don't understand why when the stats tell me I'm doing my job well. But again, statistics, I'll keep going.
So let me tell you about a losing streak. I have a mini anecdote. I'll make it quick. But this last week, just this holiday season, right? You're doing family stuff, right? I've been playing with my son, and that's been something I've been focused on this season. Just playing at least duo queuing with him. But we ended up, hooking up with just one of my best friends and his sons and some family members too, and we were just all grouped together, and got into this this group where, or at least this situation where you're just like, you want to be nice because they're family and friends, but so you want to keep playing with them. But man, you're losing just nonstop. We ended up losing 11 straight games.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh God, okay, another one. Another one.
Why didn't you switch to quick play?
Well, they wanted to play comp. I mean, it was their placement matches, so they were like 0 for 10 for their placement matches. So I'm just like, I can't. I just need to I'm taking so hard. I just need to tell them that we just need to stop. Finally, after the last one, we ended up, okay, we're done. But
so
man,
how much
that was painful.
How
That was
much ranking
deadly.
did you lose?
I think I lost 300 during that time. And then,
Jeez.
so, into
So
like
where are you now?
2100 or something. But now I'm like 22 or 23, I think, back up to climbing back up. So,
God, that's
um,
Okay, so you're gold. You're not like diamond or master or
no,
something.
no, no, no. I'm not Diamond or Masters, no. But generally
You
high
know?
plat, yeah, that kind of thing. But
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
this is because this season you're playing with your son and
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I could have gotten I think I could have gotten to Diamond if I just played more last season. I just didn't have as much time as I would like to play last season. But yeah, so because I main Reinhardt, right? And I think with Reinhardt it's a slower grind to get up there, but definitely good enough to get to Diamond. There's no question about that. But Masters definitely not. I don't think I'm good enough to even get to Masters. But yeah, in this range though, with my son, it's been definitely good trying to help him. Playing a Reinhardt and him playing support has been really good. Playing him allowing him to play DPS and me healing him or playing that Zenyatta, like I was telling you, and obviously Garrett's had a lot of success with Zen too. Zen makes up for a lot. I think Zen makes up for a ton until you probably get to like mid to high diamond. Like you can, like I said, DPS characters are very erratic, like the quality of them, and Zen can make up for that. That's been very helpful too. So me and my son have been climbing, just me and him together. But man, 11 straight losses is brutal, guys. Like it's brutal. It especially when you're like, oh, I'm literally doing this out of just being nice and courteous to like family members and stuff. Oh, the sacrifice is real. It's crazy.
it's been a long show, but I would like to mention that I made great use of the stay as team feature in my.
Oh yes, that's an awesome feature.
I
It is
love
a
it.
great
I
feature.
love it. We
Yeah.
like kept adding people on. I think it started as like 3 of us stuck together, myself included. And then like eventually got up to 4, and eventually we're at a full 6 stack. That's when things actually got kind of hard.
Yeah.
And that led to our second. One of our wins was only 2 of the games were a full 6 stack. One was a win, one was a draw. But
Oh, okay.
and it's not like we got lucky and like when we were a 4 stack we got matched against like a 2 stack or something. We were always against an equal number of a stack team, but it just felt so much better because we were talking to each other and it wasn't like we were hardcore strategizing and doing like pocket strats. It was just simply like we're defending. And it's just like, Reinhardt's coming from the left. Just being able to say that and instantly know exactly what direction we're all talking about and turn and light his ass up. It was great, and it helped a lot. And I made some friends with random people that I'd never talked to. One of them was like, I don't want to talk. I'm 13. And we're like, dude, just talk. We don't care if your voice sounds prepubescent.
That's like my son. My son never talks.
Yeah. And he ended up talking, and he was a great, like, super geeky, super into the game. We had a long discussion about how ridiculous the shield generator is for Symmetra, and we won a bunch of games and had a good time. And talk to each other is, I think, the thing I would like to put out into the universe right now. Use team chat. It makes the game so much better.
it's I got into a game just before the show. We used the stay as a team feature, which by the way, oftentimes people get together and then on the first loss, half of them leave and the other half leave. So I like it. I'm just not 100% sure at my level it's quite perfect yet, or maybe it's the holiday season. But I got into a team earlier, and we got that match where I got 75 kills with Junkrat, and it was a King of the Hill map, and we went for the 5 games. So that's why there was so much. So we went for the 5 games, and there were a couple of people. One of them was a high school student, and one was in college, and one of them was like talking about, like, he was like, oh hey, so is it cool if I take Lucio? Because tell me if I can, because I'm gonna stay on Lucio. Is it okay with you guys? And like, so in the middle of the game he was like, oh look, I can do something really cool with Lucio. I can like stay on the point, like, because no one really tells me that it's cool, but it's really cool, so look at me. And I was like, at some point I couldn't handle it anymore. I was like, dude, just please, can we keep the chatter down a little bit? And like, so it wasn't a really interesting experience, but it was grueling. That participated in my sweating and stressing.
Yeah, just meet that person at the end of the day.
Yeah, when you physically are sweating, that's all.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The Star Wars reference that Kyle and I frequently invoke in our Heroes games when things starts to go bad and everyone just starts kind of cannibalizing each other is cut the chatter, Rogue 2. Like, just shut up, shake it off, and react to what's happening.
I have to admit, though, that is much better than overall. I don't have a lot of toxic players. Does happen from time to time, though, and I've gotten a couple in my losing streaks. A couple of people that were, the people that think yelling at others is actually constructive criticism. Those are the worst.
Yeah, I had this.
Go ahead.
I was making a joke. I had this one guy named Patrick B who was like yelling. He was on his 7th loss. It was really annoying. Sorry, I had to get that in there.
No, I actually start most games, especially in quick play, but I actually start the games telling everyone, "Hey, everyone! I hope everyone's having a good, and wonderful day," with a little heart symbol. By the way, to do the heart, you press Alt and number pad 3. And it displays the little heart emoji in the game.
No, you just less than 3. That forever is how you do a heart. Darn kids with their emojis.
It's nicer with the little symbol. But so there was one guy who was like yelling at us, like actually saying, "Get on the point." And when I was like, "Dude, that's not really constructive. It brings us down. It makes us play worse. So please cut it down." And he ended up cutting it down, and we won the next round or something. But his argument was like, "But I'm being constructive. I'm telling you to get on the point." I'm like, dude, that is like, some people I just don't understand. Anyway.
Well, the worst is when they're the worst player. Like when the most vocal player is the worst player. Oh man.
Yeah. And that frequently, usually the people who are the most angry are not doing well. Like,
yeah.
I feel a little bit sad because I understand that they probably have horrible lives or something, like they're not happy in their lives, and I'm like, oh.
I had someone go off on me in Heroes the other day, and I couldn't help myself. My response was, "I'm sorry your Christmas is lonely. Try not to lash out."
How did they react?
They said, "Oh, bro, I've got a wonderful Christmas plan." I'm like, "Whatever, Dahaka." But I couldn't help myself. It's one of my favorite things to do is to try to come up with really, really creative, passive-aggressive responses to salty people.
Funny, dude.
That's nice.
Because what's the other? What's the alternative? F you, buddy. Like, no, get creative.
You know what I try to do personally? I usually try to. Seriously, I actively try to make it better. Like, sometimes the thing will switch and people will pile on the person who was being aggressive when they get, they turn away from that aggressiveness a little bit. And so I'll actually say, "Guys, chill, it's fine. He's trying to do better. Don't turn into the angry mob." Like, I'm actively trying to make things. Maybe that's why I'm losing. Maybe I should just be
No, don't go down that road. I know the road you're about to head down. Don't be a dick. Don't head down Dick Avenue. That way madness lies. No.
So that's the message you're trying to send by photoshopping my face onto Widowmaker's body. I get it. Don't be a dick. I understand. I will not. Garrett.
You took this in a route. You took this in a direction I did not anticipate.
Isn't it don't have a dick? Well, okay. I'm confused.
Michael77 in the chat room on Twitch said, because of this image, instead of not Patrick, it should be Hot Patrick. I like it.
Ooh.
I'd go with, yeah. Well, we're going to call this Hot Patrick. Hey, by the way, Overwatchers listeners, it would be so terrible if someone screen capped this photoshopped image of Patrick on Widowmaker and made a Twitter account @HotPatrick that just retweeted things Patrick said, but in like a hotter, more suggestive fashion. It would be so bad if that idea was put out into the universe and then someone went and did that.
Apparently,
I agree.
There's already a Hot Patrick.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
well, use numbers or,
Right.
add
Or
a second T.
Overwatch or OW.
That's right.
Yeah, hot Patrick,
Patrick with
underscore
a 4
OW.
instead of an A.
Yeah, Patrick with a 4 instead of an A. Ah, good old leet speak. Chanman holding it down.
Lead speed.
All right, good God, we're about to hit 2 hours. I wanted to give one shout out. Listener Zulu Charlie wants us to go and follow Adventures of Pachamari on Instagram. That's the actual Instagram account. Said his girlfriend apparently started this Instagram and has started taking pictures of their Pachamari plush in various places. I fully endorse this, except there's a photo of Pachamari next to Fireball, and Fireball is terrible. Other than that, fantastic Instagram account. Go follow it. That's going to do it for this episode of Overwatchers. Normally this is where I would wish all of our listeners well and say thank you for a great year. The support of this podcast has been fantastic. When we started Overwatchers this year, Chanman wasn't a part of it.
That's
so
right.
The show is a lot different than it has been.
It was last year, wasn't it? We started last year. But yeah, anyway.
No, it was 2016 when Chanman joined us.
Right, sorry, when you said...
No, I was saying...
I said when we started the show, and I remember.
No, that's not what I meant. I meant when we
longer.
at the beginning of this year, Chanman was not a part of the show.
That's right.
Since then, we've even gone on to moderate an Overwatch panel at BlizzCon, so a lot of really cool stuff has happened. Thank you, everyone, for the support of the show. Thank you to the Overwatch developer team, which has been really supportive of the podcast as well. But instead of saying that, I'll just say, Patrick, good luck, man. Stop having losing streaks. Cut it out.
Just stop it. God.
Thank you very much. I'll try. I never thought about not having losing streaks, and I think now that I know, I'm just gonna do it and climb up to gold. So thank you very much, Garrett. I appreciate it.
I'm glad I could give you constructive feedback.
That's right.
Something you can really take and improve your play with.
Get good.
Yeah. But seriously, thank you everyone for a wonderful year of this podcast. Thanks again to our patrons and our Patreon producers, LVE.game and Bloody Shy. Follow the show on Twitter at OverwatchCast. Email us at mailoverwatchers@gmail.com. And don't forget you can subscribe on iTunes, youtube.com/AMoveTV, or just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. And if you're dropping us 5-star reviews in the iTunes store, we really appreciate it. And on this episode, thank you to Arts in Doom, HP Seaton, and Xander_134, which is totally not the name your mother gave you at birth. Come on, man. No underscores. What? But feel free to use an underscore on your @HotPatrick account that you totally shouldn't go in there
That's
with
right.
this Photoshopped picture of Patrick. Patrick, where can folks find you when you're not masquerading as a hot French
Widowmaker.
assassin?
You know what? I'm sort of I'm taking a week's break on shows, so I'm not doing a lot, except of course Overwatchers. But just follow me on Twitter or Facebook at not Hot Patrick, on both, and you'll find out what I do when I do it.
Awesome. Chanman, how about yourself?
You can find my stream at twitch.tv/ChanmanV, doing some shows. Got a couple of them tomorrow. Streamer Showdown, which is my Hearthstone game show with some of your favorite streamers, will be tomorrow at 4 p.m. You can check that out. Let me know how you guys like that. And then just my VODs for all the shows are on youtube.com/ChanmanV.
Dope. You can follow me on Twitter at GarrettArt. Everything else is at amove.tv. This podcast and all of the others that I do, chances are they're about a Blizzard game. Go to amove.tv, check those out. And that will do it for this episode. Good luck, everyone, in your games out there. If you see not Patrick in your game, play better. Come on. Jeez.
And don't yell at him.
And don't yell at him. Well, you know what? Don't yell at anyone, because that's just unhelpful.
True.
That's true.
Saying, excuse me, so-and-so player, maybe go about this a different way. Give helpful, constructive things. Don't just be like, oh my God, this Inyata named Garrett is the worst. What a piece of junk. Oh my God, he's constantly throwing Discord orbs on what we're trying to kill. He's so terrible. Don't do that. Say something constructive and be kind. Just be nice to each other, damn it. Why is that so hard?
It's holiday season.
Yeah,
Should
exactly.
be easy.
Exactly. If nothing else, drink eggnog until you become nice to people.
I mean, I took an 11 loss streak to be nice to people. All right.
Yeah.
You can do it too. If
You
Chris
can do
can,
it too.
you
And,
can.
and Chris is typically a total jerk about who he plays games with. So if Chris can do it, you can too. No, not really. Fantastic. Well, thanks everyone. We'll see you in 2017. Until then, good luck and have fun.
Bye.
Bye.